Okay, well, let's get started and people will continue to roll in because we do kind of have an ambitious agenda here. So, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. So thank you all so much for coming. And thank you in general for your interest in the section. You know, as you can see just from the agenda and as we'll talk about today, we've gotten a lot done this year. And we have some problems in the section, which we need to talk about. But first, let's talk about how great the section is, because as we all know, you know, this year was a terrible year for people. And there's very little margin for people to operate in, given everything that's going on in the world and COVID and all the rest of that. So I really want to thank people in the section for all the work that they've done. That's partly why I sent out those lists of people who are on committees. You know, it's over 60 people who have volunteered their time to really make the section work. And to try to do that in a way that respects the diversity of the section in terms of different kinds of research, interests, different types of schools, race and ethnicity, and sex and gender status, all kinds of things that we've, every time we act as a section, we really need to try to take that into account. For a variety of different reasons, because I would say it's the right thing to do, but also moving towards the problems of the section. We have membership problems in the section. And the last time I looked, which was a couple days ago, it's gotten a little bit better in a certain kind of way because we gave free membership to the grad students. And as a result, 170 something grad students signed on, which is fabulous. And that's like the future of our section. But regular members who are not students, we're down to 364, which is not the greatest. And for a section that used to be, you know, up over 1,000, and probably this, when I started, I think it was like the second biggest section in the panoply of sections. So we've come a long way down from there. So we always have to be thinking about membership, and that's partly why we opened up free membership to the grad students, but also because it's the right thing to do, and also why we have to think about taking the various constituencies of the section into account. We're an incredibly wide-ranging section in that regard. The other thing we need to think about as a section is institutionalizing the various different things that we do. So many times we start from scratch, you know, as if like people are reinventing the wheel and so forth, and it makes for so much more work for folks. So one of the things that we've done this year is Rich Pasal is here, and he's going to be the chair of the section next year. So he and I started working together much earlier in the year so he could sort of get a sense of what the work of the section is and then just pick it up, you know, relatively seamlessly when he takes over after this meeting. And he will do the same with Lisa Holmes, you know, assuming that the election goes to Lisa's favor. And since she's running unopposed, that seems likely. Okay, all of that said, let's just super quickly, because we have a lot, totally, congrats, Rich, nice job. Let's relatively quickly hear from different people who've been doing the work of the section. And I see that Allison Gash is here, and she has been, along with the people in the CRE committee, maybe on recruitment, retention, quality, working on different projects, but she's going to tell us a little bit about their most recent project, which is a collaboration with REP, Race, Ethnicity, and Politics. So Allison, can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. So I've been working with folks from REP and also folks from Sexuality and Politics to address the recent legislation on banning critical race theory. So I don't know if folks are aware, but I think it's roughly 8 states so far have actually passed legislation that outlaws any discussions of like racism in the United States, race in the United States. They've outlawed any sort of mentionings of privilege or anything like that. They've also, I think in much of this legislation, it talks about, the sort of same parameters along the lines of gender and gender identity and sexuality as well. So a bunch of states that are really outlining a lot of the work that a lot of us do in public school settings. And I think in some instances that extends into public universities as well. As an institution, what we can be doing across APSA to really provide some supports to folks, to our colleagues that are working in those states where that legislation has been passed and where they're really going to be hampered in what they can teach, but also really to educate folks on, what's at risk by this legislation, but also to fill in the gaps where folks aren't going to be getting that education anymore. And so some of the wonderful ideas that REP has come up with, I think would be really attractive to folks in our section. Specifically, there are two projects so far. One is, a sort of resource sharing, syllabus sharing initiative where we would make some of those syllabi that we teach available to our colleagues, but also to other folks outside of APSA, folks, especially in the K through 12 setting, who want to do more to teach this stuff if they're in states where they can still do that. But also to create what we were thinking were sort of like TikTok length, 1 minute, 1.5 minute short videos about a specific topic that would otherwise be outlawed in these states that are outlawing that have created these bans. And so that could be anywhere from a specific case, maybe, talking about Brown versus Board of Ed, or talking about Plessy versus Ferguson, or talking about, Dred Scott, to a concept, talking about what critical race theory actually is, talking about concepts of colorblindness. There's a bunch of stuff that we already do in our section a lot in our classes that I think would be really transferable and translatable in these kind of short videos that we could create and ideally put up on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube. And so we're in the very, very, very beginnings of this discussion. And we're probably going to put out a call for folks who might be remotely interested, either in providing those videos or in maybe helping us edit those videos so that they actually look polished. But in any event, that's coming out. And so I just wanted to make you all aware that these opportunities are on the horizon.
Okay, thank you, Allison. And Allison has taken the lead with that with Mendy Johnson, who isn't able to be here at the meeting today. But if you're interested in that, even before the announcement comes out, you can contact Allison Gash or Mendy Johnson. And this is actually a good segue to talking about the section website and the social media initiatives that have happened just this year. This is an entirely new thing. Like the CREED was new. Julie, I think that was started under Julie Novkov when she was section chair. And this is the follow-up. And this year, earlier in the year, the section website got completely redone, and various different social media initiatives. If someone could put the website URL in the chat, that'd be great, so that people could go have a look at it, because it's really beautiful. And it has all the basic information updated in there, as well as Twitter and Facebook and other kinds of presences for the law and court section, spotlighting junior faculty, having brown bags and so forth. So Shane, do you want to just tell us just a tiny bit about how it's going and where it might be headed? And actually, you might work with Allison too, your group on this project, but go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Susan. And when Allison was talking, I made a note to talk to her because we do have a section YouTube channel right now. At this point, it's an archive of our previous brown bags. David Hughes and I were chatting earlier about this upcoming Falls Brown Bags. We sent an invite out for the first one, and I'll probably send the second invite out very shortly. The website was completely redone recently. We've made it more interactive. We put a syllabus repository on there. We sent a call out over the listserv and social media for those. We'll make another call of that. There's no such thing as too many syllabi. I'm happy to upload any and all syllabi that I get. So I encourage you all to send your syllabi in when we get there. We also created a data set repository. Can't tell you how many times I've been collecting data and I learned someone else is collecting the same data, and it's redundant. I mean, we work smarter, not harder, right? So I'd encourage you all to donate to that. The website does in some ways remain a work in progress. We are planning to add the previous compositions of committees, the section awards. You sent out the email earlier, Susan, and I made a mental note to put this onto the website to get this all nice and updated. So that will be coming relatively soon. Our social media presence, that is largely David's work. I think I saw David on here. David, do you want to chat about that really quick?
Sure, thanks, Shane. Yeah, so I do the Twitter feed and the Facebook page and YouTube. And Allison Trotchestedt, who may be with us as well, is handling the LinkedIn page. So, one thing that we've done with the social media presence is to try and highlight our more junior scholars, particularly right now, those who are on the job market, doing a Follow Friday feature. So if you're on the job market, or if you have a student who's on the job market, please do reach out so that we can highlight their research and their teaching, so that the rest of the membership can be made aware of them. We also share Law in Court's job opportunities as I see them appear on APSA. So if you have a job and you haven't seen us tweet out about it or put it on our Facebook page, please make us aware of that. Yeah, we've had a pretty good success since we started in January. In January, I think we had 150 Twitter followers. Now we're getting up to about 700. So it seems to be going well in that respect, and it seems to be pretty well received so far. And we look forward to doing the next 2 brown bags in the fall. So be on the lookout for that. Or if you have ideas for brown bags, please reach out. And one thing that Shane didn't mention about our website is we have a new Law in Courts blog where we're featuring interesting new forthcoming research, but also sort of veterans' advice to the newbies about how to survive this profession. And we've had 2 great articles already featured, one by Wendy Martinek, and most recently, Shane, help me out.
Rebecca Hamlin.
Rebecca Hamlin, sorry, yeah. Okay, and so if you have something you'd like to, if you think you have words of wisdom for the next generation of law and courtiers, please feel free to reach out to one of us as well. We'd love to get an 800-word blog or so from you.
And the third blog should be posting. I'm expecting it any day. And David is an editor of these things that I send it to him and I get it back within like 15 minutes. It's incredible. We should be having a second one coming within the week, or a third blog coming within the week.
Okay, super good. Is Allison here? I don't think she is. No. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, when these guys, presented their plan, to the search committee for this position, this new position, I was sort of like, no way are they going to get all this stuff done. This is like so ambitious, it's crazy. But look, they've done. I mean, it's kind of amazing how much they've done. So thank you so much, Shane and David and Allison. It's quite fantastic. So thank you. Let's see. Oh, the only thing I would say is maybe post more to the listserv with like links to things that are upcoming and stuff, just because I think some people aren't on Twitter and so forth as much. So, that would be a good thing to do. And I think it's, within the bounds of the listserv rules to just make announcements like that. Okay, the newsletter editor, is Danny here? Danny Lampert? He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to come because, people are teaching and all that.
Yep.
Oh, excellent. Okay, can you just tell us, like, really shortly, a couple of, 1 or 2 of your plans for the future newsletters? He was also selected just this year.
Sure. So, and I'll refer listeners to sort of the call for papers that went out a good couple of weeks ago for details, but we're hoping to feature various kinds of short pieces that are of interest to the community at large. And we're looking forward to submissions. If anybody wants to discuss possible submissions, I'll plan to be at the reception later tonight. So feel free to get in touch with me there or shoot me an email.
Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to your revamping of the newsletter. It's very exciting. And that's a great reminder that we also have time to talk during the reception. And if I can manage the, not super hard, but not easy for me technology, we can create different chat rooms on different subjects if people so desire. Thank you, Danny. Let's hear next from if Jolly and Monica are here, the new also selected this year. There was so much activity this year, my goodness gracious. We can hear about maybe an idea or two more of what they're planning to do with the Law and Politics Book Review. And also I see Jennifer Bowie is here. Thank her for her service these many years, you know, as review editor. Jolly and Monica, are one of you here?
Yeah, I'm here, Susan. Yeah, huge thanks to Jennifer, who's been a huge help during the transition over. So basically, we're just thinking about continuing what Jennifer's done with the book review and her amazing work that she's done with diversity and inclusion, and getting a ton of reviews out basically every month, and modernizing and updating the website. And thanks to everybody on Twitter who participated in selecting our new logo.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Monica. We look forward to seeing what happens next in the LPBR. How about, there aren't people here from the listserv moderators because, you know, as has happened a lot, Todd Curry had a last minute, his kid got sick, you know, and so he wasn't able to make it today. But he did ask me to say, you know, thank you to everyone who participates in the listserv, you know, in the way that it is now. And it's become, you know, in the form that it is much more civil and so forth. And he and the moderators look forward to continuing along those lines. Next, we will hear from Lee Walker, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the budget. I think we're in pretty good shape, in part because of the, you know, we haven't been having receptions, and those are a big money suck on the section because of the hotel fees and so forth. But you tell the story. We go for it.
Hey, Susan, can I share my screen real quick?
Oh, yes. Let's see. How do I do that? Let me see. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right, can everyone see that? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so this is the last report of the budget that I received from, and of course, the great thing about it is that the APSA keeps the budget, so I don't have to worry about too much on that part. So this is the last report received as of June 30th, 2021. So there's several expenses that are not a part of this, and I'll go through those really quickly. But as you can see, our total revenue at the end of June was this figure, $51,611. And then our total expenses, I'm sorry, this was the beginning budget, $31,491. This was total revenue, including this $43,536 is money, right? Is monies that we got back in transferring the journal Law and Courts from Kentucky to Emory. And so this gave us this total revenue of $51,611, and then total expenses and this honorarium editorial support. So we're actually sending the funds out to Emory in segments. So this is an amount that went to Emory, $91,000 for editorial support, $9,500, and then this is the member charge that goes to the Journal Law and Courts, so $2,124. And so our total expenses up until or in that June section was $11,624, and this left us with an imbalance of $71,478. Since that time, we paid out a second segment of this $9,500 and also a second payment for the journal for the membership fee for $2,340. And then also for the awards and reimbursements, we paid out $839. So the awards included the Best Graduate Student Paper Award, which is $200 for each awardee. And that is usually reimbursed to us by the journal, actually. So Tom and I have to talk about that a little bit. And then also, and then we purchased some plaques and award plaques for folks. And then we're also reimbursing Jennifer for transferring the books to Monica and the new editors of the Long Course Book Review. Okay. And so our actual balance right now is about 58,000, and that doesn't include any new revenues that we've had in members' dues since June. So that number will kind of fluctuate. So we actually have more than the actual 58,000 that I just talked about. The C. Herman Pritchett endowment is in really good shape. As you can see here, we're at 50,377. We did award, make 2 cash awards for the winners of this year's book award. And so this balance is now really 49,377 is what that is. So as Susan said, because we don't have, the reception right now, we're in really good shape. But I'm hoping that we'll be spending some money on the reception next year. So hopefully that'll be the case. And if anyone has any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer those. And I'll stop my share now.
Thank you, Lee. I think that people have a lot of interest in having the reception off-site, and that there's been some success with that in the past, and it's less expensive than people, I don't know, it can extend further beyond the hour, that you have for the room at APSA. So
yeah, certainly that was the case when we did the one in DC, which I put together, which I was very pleased with. And I think the offsite people are very happy to work with us on, because we actually had more people than I anticipated, but they were really great. They just billed me for the difference, and it worked out really nicely. So I think we can make good arrangements there.
thank you for doing that. It's great. It was a great event. And we also, because we're in COVID time, we also, and Lee took care of this, so thank you so much for your work. The section decided to give plaques to award winners this year because, we're not even in person. So it's nice to have like a commemorative thing to remember that you got the award by. So we also did that too, but that's not a super expensive thing, and maybe something we want to continue to do. But
yeah, I agree, Susan. Maybe something we want to continue to do, and if they're not overly expensive. So yeah.
it's nice, it's just a nice way to remember and stuff. So anyway, we can talk about that, at a later time. Okay, well, thank you so much, Lee, for all your work on that. Can we hear from Tom Clark, the I mean, my God, so many searches this year, the newish journal editor about what's going on at Journal of Long Courts?
Yeah, the journal is in very good shape. Justin Wedeking did an unbelievably smooth and effective job handing it off, and was really helpful with the transition. So that part went very, very smoothly. And since I've come on, the news is very good. So the big piece of news is the turnaround time has been cut in half. So it used to be on average about 270 days to a decision, and it's now down to 131. And so the journal's moving quickly. We're on track to have more submissions this year than any year past. So we're receiving more papers and turning them around quickly. And the diversification of interests and places that the authors, that interest represented by in places that authors come from has increased. So we're getting more submissions from different universities and from other countries compared to the past. So that's good. And I ask you to encourage people to submit. Well, even though there's lots of more papers, we're very happy to have them. And for those of you who have received the emails from me asking you to review, now you know why. And so I hope that you all continue to agree to share your time and expertise with the journal as you have been this year. It's been fantastic. So That's all I really have to say, but I'm happy to answer questions or tell you anything more.
Thank you so much, Tom. And the other thing to know about it is, yeah, about the contract is coming to an end, so that will be an issue for the next year in terms of what happens with that, whether, you know, we renew with Chicago or go in a different direction and so forth. But that's a conversation for another day. Okay, well, that's like the pretty substantial amount of work that we got done this year, I think. And I just want to talk briefly about a couple things that will be for Rich to take up, you know, going forward, and Rich will have, you know, his own set of things as well. So we want to move to a slightly different model for the Lifetime Achievement Award. The reason why is, as many of you know, we have a lot of distinguished scholars in law and courts, which is a great problem to have. Problem, not really a problem. So we have all these people who are really quite qualified and could easily be recognized among us. And so the committee that selected our winner for this year wrote me a memo and said, you know, I really think we can move to a different kind of system that would recognize multiple people each year. And in particular, that might help, you know, one of the problems that we have in the section, which is recognizing various different kinds of work, you know, very robustly. And in addition to that, one of our distinguished members, Mark Graber, suggested the possibility of like kind of a Hall of Fame model. If you're a sports person, you might be familiar with that. You know, that there are basically like slates of people who get selected for various different sports halls of fame every year. And you know, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go moving forward, but I do know that next year we're going to have 2 people on the panel that traditionally goes with the award winner, because we decided not to hold the panel this year because it just didn't seem right to not have people in person for that kind of you know, award and recognition. So we're going to push this year's award winner to next year's panel, and then whomever is chosen next year as well. And I kind of like that also, because I feel like then it becomes more a panel, even if there were more winners, you know, eventually, it becomes more about like what kind of work is happening in the section or has happened in the section, rather than, you know, just spotlighting the work of one person as a kind of hagiography and so forth. So that's the kind of direction that we're going in. Maybe having, you know, say 2 to 4 choices or something like that, and then have a panel around that different kind of work. It would be interesting, unless, you know, the Lifetime Achievement Award, it's gotten kind of, to my mind, kind of weird in recent years, in the sense of like people are submitting more and more documentation. It's almost like, you know, become like a promotion or something. We don't want to make work for people in terms of, you know, having them recognized, or make it about like who makes the biggest effort, you know, on behalf of the person that they're forwarding. So this is something that we're going to keep working on going forward. And I just sort of wanted to make you aware of that, and we can talk about it in reception time as well, if people wish. I mentioned this earlier about the sort of chair-elect socialization, for lack of a better way to put it, but Rich and I have been working together since basically like the beginning of the calendar year to try to, you know, help the chair that's incoming understand the various different kinds of work and things that the section is involved in, so that it doesn't, you know, when the baton is handed over at the end of this meeting, you know, it doesn't all come as like, oh my goodness, what's going on and so forth. I mean, of course, you know, people who, you know, myself excluded, people who have been section chair, you know, are very distinguished people, and they know all about like what's going on in section and so forth. But still, it becomes like a very difficult thing if there's not kind of a way to socialize people into that, both the problems and the positive things in the section. So we've sort of informally started to do that, Rich and I, and Rich has pledged to do that with Lisa next year, maybe from the get-go. And one thing that we discussed also in the executive committee is the other reason for doing it is that there's just a tremendous amount of work that is associated with being section chair. And a big part of that is staffing all these committees. And so, you know, we may not have as many in subsequent years as we had this year. It just happened that way, that a lot of people were leaving key positions. But it might be nice for the chair to have the help of the chair-elect to kind of think about how to structure, you know, or provide names for the committees and so forth, because that is an awful lot of work. And also it would forward the need that we have to represent different constituencies in the section, different kinds of research, different kinds of identities, different kinds of schools and so forth. So that's part of the reason for doing that. And then in terms of the institutional section work and processes, I mean, you know, it would really help if people pass the baton to the next person in a similar sort of way. I think people do that informally. The next people coming in for different kinds of offices in the section, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And so people, I know of some instances, for example, not this doesn't have to do with Lee and so forth, but like earlier on, some people who, you know, had some ideas about like what to do about the budget and so forth. And then those ideas just died, you know, when the person left office and so forth. And so we need to get better about continuity in the section, and to the extent that we can, documenting what has occurred and kind of trying to create institutional processes. It's really important. Oh, along those lines, here's an example. I made a somewhat of an error, a big error in a certain kind of way, but fortunately we caught it. Because you might have seen that on the, you know, we all know we have the law and courts section part of the program, right? And then we have this other part of the program, the constitutional law and jurisprudence section. And I thought that when I was appointing people to run the law and courts part of the program, that it was also my job to appoint the con law and jurisprudence people too. And APSA did not, you know, dissuade me of that. In fact, it's not their fault, it's my fault, but they encouraged me to do that. And that was wrong, because the practice is that the people who are currently the program organizers for constitutional law and jurisprudence appoint the people for the following year. So our current folk, Michael Tolley and Nancy Navidi, they appointed Tom Keck and Terry Peretti. Meanwhile, I had appointed Aaron Mayo Adam and Courtney Dom. And so I spoke with all these people, and they very graciously agreed that Courtney and Aaron will do it, you know, the following year. So Tom and Terry are for next year. And then, but all that to say, like, that's all straightened out, but all that to say is that happened because I had no idea of the processes that were in place to, you know, take care of that succession. And there are many things in the section that are kind of like that. So we kind of need to clean that stuff up. Okay. Can we have, I posted earlier on Law and Courts, the listserv, the new slate of officers, but let me just, proposed officers. So as many of you know, the way that the slate is constituted is through the nominations committee. And this year's chair of the nominations committee was Julie Novkov. And she and the other folks on the committee came up with this great slate of nominees, which I posted earlier, but I'll go over them here. So Lisa Holmes for chair-elect. So after Rich would become chair, she would become the chair-elect. Susan Johnson as treasurer, because Lee has done this great work for us and is stepping down now. You know, it's the end of his term. And then Ginny Locanita, Rebecca Reed, and David Yaloff for executive committee. So that is the slate. If let's see, is there a proper way to do this? Does someone need to move that slate and second it? Who would like to move the slate?
So moved.
Okay, so that was David Hughes, and would someone like to second that, please?
Second.
Okay, Carol Nakanoff seconded that. And then I think the normal way in which this happens when we're in person is just sort of by acclamation if there are no objections. So I guess I will say, if you are moved to have an objection, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, so all those in favor of this slate, moving forward, please raise your hand.
Aye.
All those who are not in favor, maybe everybody could lower their hands, their virtual hands now. And if you're not in favor, I mean, I guess I already asked if anybody had objections, so I presume that everybody's in favor. Are there any abstentions? Yay! Okay, excellent. So we have the new slate of candidates who will be coming in, and of course, Rich will be the section chair. And other people will continue on. Nicole Alexander Floyd will continue on as secretary. And let's see here, in terms of the executive committee, we have Laura Moyer continuing, Daniel Naran continuing, and Tina Wilhelm. They will join the 3 people that I mentioned. So thank you, Julie, and the nominations committee for your work. Thank you to all those people who already served for all these years. And I should mention, one of the other things that we talked about in terms of how to manage the chair and chair-elect thing is no decisions have been made, but the executive committee will talk about the possibility of moving forward, having possibly, maybe in the future, longer terms for the chair and chair-elect, but we'll see. Yes, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Susan, for saying that. Okay, is there any new business that people need to talk about before we move to the award presentation? Is there anything pressing that needs to be said? Carol,
You want me to go ahead?
if you have something you mean, in terms of.
No, I have
You had a thing that you want to say. Okay, so let's start out with let's go in order here, the order that I have. Let's go with Best Conference Paper Award. And I believe the person who's going to discuss the winners and talk a little bit about their work is Wendy Martinick. Is that right?
That is correct. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy.
So let's see here. So on behalf of the award committee, I'm very pleased to be able to announce the award winner for the best conference paper. We were very fortunate to have the opportunity to read a really strong pool of work. And the winner, apparently I had a little time on my hands this afternoon, so I decided to do a formal slideshow. The winner is The Minimal Cost of Curbing Experimental Evidence from the United States, co-authored by Amanda Driscoll and Mike Nelson. And in this paper, they bring to bear new experimental evidence to resolve the conflict between what seems to be the theoretical models about interbranch relations that suggest that politicians will keep their paws off of legitimate judiciaries, but then we see in the real world that lots of politicians are not doing that. So they've developed a very careful research design that was tailored to the task at hand. And then their findings have implications for theories of interbranch relations, as well as the role of courts in democratic backsliding. The batch of nominees was so strong that we also had an honorable mention by Alex Bottas and Caitlin Stauffer, Gender and Ambition Among Potential Law Clerks. And here, sorry. And here, what they did is they were trying to get a better grasp of understanding of why we have women are underrepresented in the ranks of law clerks. So they used a survey design to talk to student editors at top law reviews. And what they found among many of their interesting findings is that women feel less qualified to apply for clerkships than men. However, encouragement by those that they respect and admire actually can lead to the greater expression of ambition. And their findings definitely have some really strong implications with regard to women's representation in the judiciary as well as political ambition more generally. So on behalf of the committee, join me in thanking our winner and our runner-up.
Excellent. Congrats to the winners and the honorable mention folk, and Wendy setting the bar high with the PowerPoint presentation. That was not in the assignment, so extra credit points. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you to you and the committee for your service in sorting all that out. Next, we'll have the Best Graduate Student Paper Award, and I believe that Tony Smith is going to present this award.
Yeah, I kind of wish we'd done that in the other order because my presentation is wholly inadequate compared to Wendy's. I have no slides. But I do have an extraordinary paper that we gave the award to. We had, I want to say 22 submissions. 4 of them were actually forthcoming in article or journals all over the place, including some very good ones. And this was, at first blush, really challenging. But then when we all read the papers, our process was a little different than sometimes we do it, but we each ranked our top 3 independently. And then as the chair, I compiled those scores and distributed them when we talked about it, but it turned out we didn't really have anything to talk about because we sort of hit on a very similar ordering of the top 3. This is not to say that the other 18 or 19 were not outstanding. They were all really, really, really good. So I'm delighted to announce that Nathan Carrington and Claire Sigsworth, who are both with us, I think, from Syracuse University, won the award. And the title of the paper, I want to read it to make sure I get it right. Home State Interest, Nationalism, and the Legitimacy of the International Criminal Court. So they not only had a very clever pre-clearance experimental design, they constructed an original data set, and they really pushed on this idea of what are the dynamics of legitimacy with respect to international courts. And they landed on 2 really interesting dynamics about it, including perceived home state interest and nationalism. I suggest you take a look at this paper if any of these words are interesting to you, and you will certainly be able to read it soon, I'm sure. I also want to give a shout out to Tom Keck, either one or both of them's advisor and the person that nominated it. And one other thing that we did is we didn't just, we asked people not to look at the nominating letters and to disregard the institutions of origin so that we would try to limit either implicit or explicit bias. And to the extent that everybody on the committee did that, that's fantastic. To the extent they didn't, we still all arrived at the same paper as being extraordinary. So we all look forward to what Nathan and Claire will produce in the future, and thoroughly enjoyed not only this paper, but the entire exercise. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, thank you, Tony. That was well done. Thank you so much to you and the committee for your efforts, and congratulations to the award winners, and thanks Tom Keck for nominating, and to all the people who nominated. Sanjay, do you have oh, are you clapping? Is that what that is? Or is that a question? Clapping. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, and congratulations. Next, we'll have the Best Journal Article Award, and I believe the presenter is Tracy Birch. Is that right, Tracy? Okay, we'll hold off on that one for a minute if Tracy isn't here. Let's move to the service award, and Keith Bybee will present that.
Thank you, Susan. The Service Award Committee had 6 members, a number of whom I think are in the Zoom room as I speak. I chaired the committee. There was also Sarah Benesh, Jennifer Fredette, Lauren McCarthy, Veronica Michelle, and Jason Pearson. And on behalf of the committee, it's my pleasure to present this year's award winner, who's also on this call, Dr. Rebecca Reed, who is assistant professor at University of Texas, El Paso. Rebecca received several enthusiastic nominations, and these nominations' level of enthusiasm matched the committee's view. In addition to her impressive scholarly work, she has performed extensive and valuable service that has made our section more diverse, vibrant, and welcoming. It's both unusual and good for a junior faculty member to have done so much to help build and improve our community. As one of our nominators noted, Reed has become, quote, an extremely valuable member of our section in a short period of time, end quote. We agree, and we believe that she richly deserves this year's service award. If I can just take a minute, I think it's worthwhile detailing some of her accomplishments. Under the auspices of the section's ad hoc diversity committee, Reed helped develop policies to reduce underrepresentation in our ranks. She also created a BIPOC law and courts group to provide a safe space for networking, collaboration, and mutual support among members. Her deep commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is also evidenced by the comprehensive library of anti-racism resources that she maintains on her website. She's been actively involved in gathering both qualitative and quantitative data about our section to better inform our own DEI policies. She's posted about this research on social media. She's also presented her work on this topic at several conferences and published findings in PS, the Political Science and Politics Journal, and in multiple editions of Law and Courts newsletter. As a result, Reed has become a noted authority on scholarly diversity and a highly visible advocate for greater inclusion. The positive impact of her work on this crucially important set of issues has been tremendous. She's also created and maintains the International Comparative Law and Courts Group, which is a collaborative network of more than 150 law and court scholars from around the world. This extraordinary network is supported by a robust infrastructure, including a Facebook page, listserv, and directory of scholars. And it features monthly virtual workshops. The network's development required remarkable energy and vision, and the benefits to our section profession are enormous. As a direct result of her efforts, scholars outside of the country and scholarship focused on non-US courts are both far better integrated into the broader law and courts community. Reed actively mentors high school students and university students, both undergraduate and graduate, and junior scholars. She's been a manuscript reviewer for many peer-reviewed journals important to law and courts membership, including the section's own Journal of Law and Courts. Just this term, she helped organize panels for the Judicial Politics section of the American Political Science Association meeting, which is happening now. And just recently, moments ago, this is breaking news, was selected as a new member of this section's executive board. Yay. As in all of her broader work, including her work as a panel organizer, manuscript reviewer, and mentor, Rebecca Reed demonstrates an abiding commitment to community building. In short, we think that she's terrific and clearly merits recognition. Please join me in congratulating Rebecca Reed.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your tireless work on behalf of the section and beyond. It's really super impressive. And thank you, Keith, and the committee for taking the time to recognize Rebecca in this way and for all the work that you put into this. So thank you very much to all concerned. Next, we'll have the teaching and mentoring. You're welcome. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Next, we'll have the teaching and mentoring award presentation. No, yes, that's correct. And Stephen Engel, I believe, is going to present this. Is that right?
I don't think so.
Oh, Joey, I'm sorry. That's right. My apologies. So my colleague, Joey Mello at DePaul, is going to present this award. So here I am, new to the place and already falling flat.
Thanks,
Go ahead,
Susan.
Joey. Go ahead.
We'll let it slide this time. So on behalf of the award committee, it's my pleasure to award the Teaching and Mentoring Award to Carol Nakanoff, Richter Professor of Political Science at Swarthmore College. Congratulations, Carol. As Susan mentioned, the chair of our Teaching and Mentoring Committee this year was Stephen Engel of Bates College. He couldn't make it today, but he did prepare some written remarks. So I'm going to go ahead and read what he said. Congratulations to Professor Nakanoff on receiving this award. Nomination letters took note of Professor Nakanoff's exceptional teaching, her mentorship of undergraduates, her continued connection with graduate students beyond her own institution, and her mentorship of those new to the career. As one nominator noted, Carol always invites graduate students and junior faculty to be on the mini panels she organizes at conferences, to submit chapters to books that she is editing, and to go to conference dinners she is organizing. At APSA reception, she makes a beeline not for the most important person in the room, but for the graduate student who presented a paper that she enjoyed, or the assistant professor standing alone in the corner without a companion to talk to. Letter writers also praised Professor Nakanoff's extraordinary commitment to working with female identified students and scholars, mentoring many through the tenure process and encouraging their research, whether by giving feedback on papers, organizing panels, or providing opportunities for their voices when she had editorial capacities and responsibilities for a volume or journal. One letter to the committee is particularly illustrative. I had selected Carol as an external reviewer for my tenure file. I did not know her, but I admired her work. After my tenure process was over, she struck up a conversation at a conference, noting shared interest in our scholarship that she realized as she read my file. Thus began Carol's informal mentorship of me as a young scholar. She introduced me to other scholars, gave me feedback on my work, and eventually invited me to collaborate on a project. Her encouragement of students, whether in pursuing the rigorous honors program at Swarthmore, or in a constitutional law class, or in environmental policy, all show Carol's generosity in providing opportunities for her students and upholding standards of academic excellence. And another letter summarized the sentiments of many. It is not an exaggeration to say that without Carol, I would not have a career studying law and courts. Although Carol does not teach at a PhD granting institution, she is still able to support graduate students and those just beginning their careers. Long after I graduated from college, Carol continued to check in with me, to read earlier versions of my dissertation, and to provide guidance. I have frequently witnessed her taking other junior scholars under her wing as well, offering incisive comments on their work, along with sincere encouragement. In short, Professor Nakanoff has been a steward of the study of law and courts in our profession. She has been a mentor to undergraduates, graduate students, and early career professors alike. This recognition is richly deserved, and the selection committee is honored to present it to Professor Nakanoff, which recognizes her exemplary dedication to teaching and mentoring students and scholars. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a beautifully written note from Stephen Engel, and thank you, Joey, so much for sharing that with us. And congratulations, Carol.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Rand Herschel is here just only for a few minutes because he has to go back to his class. He's on break. So let's go to the Lasting Contribution Award, which Carol is going to present actually as local.
All right. Can I share the screen?
Sure.
Never mind. Don't bother. Don't bother. Let's not. I think it's fine. The Lasting Contribution Award Committee was chaired by me this year, and I had wonderful colleagues to work with. The committee included Lydia Tidi at the University of Houston, Jenny Locanita at Drew University, and Eileen Brayman at Indiana University. And we have selected Rand Herschel's Toward Juristocracy, The Origins and Consequences of the New Constitutionalism, published by Harvard in 2004. We had many good nominations, very excellent nominations, mostly books, but a few articles as well. Please keep those nominations coming. Everybody got thoughtful attention this year, I want to assure you. Toward Juristocracy played a central role in inspiring the comparative constitutional revolution that now has a substantial place in political science and law, and challenges scholars of constitutional politics to transcend parochialism. This very early piece of comparative judicial scholarship is firmly grounded in the social sciences, rich in theory, and steeped in empirical evidence. Herschel challenged Blythe assertions, that constitutions and bills of rights were unalloyed goods that protected minorities. Empowering the judiciary for hegemonic preservation has had many negative consequences for marginalized groups. As one nominator writes, his study of the rise of judicial review throughout the world highlighted the elite benefits of permitting courts to declare law unconstitutional, a claim that is as conventional now as original then. Asking what explains judicial empowerment through constitutionalization at roughly the same time in South Africa, New Zealand, Israel, and Canada, and noting the spread of this trend in subsequent decades, Herschel argues that the constitutionalization of rights and the establishment of judicial review is not driven solely or even primarily by politicians' genuine commitment to progressive notions of social justice or to an elevated vision of universal rights. It is driven in many cases by attempts to maintain the social and political status quo and to block attempts to seriously challenge it through democratic politics. Toward Juristocracy has gained wide recognition with over 2,000 Google Scholar citations and mentioned in a large number of media articles. It was nominated for the Lasting Contribution Award by scholars both quite junior and quite senior. The arguments that Herschel made in Towards Juristocracy have captured the attention of civil society activists in a number of countries. This book has been must-reading in political science, public law, and other disciplines in the English-speaking world since its publication in 2004. It has fundamentally changed the way we perceive legal phenomena. Please join the Lasting Contribution Award Committee in extending congratulations to Ran.
Thank you so much, Carol. And it's a tremendous honor. I deeply apologize that I have to go back to class in order to be able in 20 years to win the award you have just won. So I just took a literally 7-minute break to be here. And let me just also say that this book came out of my PhD dissertation to the extent that there is some 20-some years ago. So to the extent that there are advanced graduate students in the crowd here, there is some hope and some light at the end of the tunnel. So go pursue your ideas and some good things will happen 20-some years later, if not sooner. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And I have to run back to class. Bye.
Thank you, Ren. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Carol, for the very nice citation, and to the committee for doing that work as well. Let's go back to now the C. Herman Pritchett Book Award. And I think Jeff Dudas is going to present that award. Jeff?
Yes, thank you, Susan. It was my great pleasure to serve as the chair of this year's C. Herman Pritchett Award committee. And I want to make sure that I credit and laud the work of the other committee members, Paul Passavant, Tanisha Means, Julio Rios Figueroa, and Joanna West. This year, the committee had upwards of 30 fantastic nominations. It was a difficult committee assignment for sure, but it was deeply enriching. And I know that all of us really enjoyed this work. The committee awarded 2 books, Professor Jenny Locanita's The Truth Machines and Professor Terry Peretti's Partisan Supremacy. Professor Locanita's The Truth Machines is a searching exploration and assessment of the emergence of scientific methods, or what Professor Locanita refers to as truth machines, the emergence of these in contemporary Indian policing. Justified as humane and enlightened replacements for physical coercion, these truth machines, which include quasi-scientific practices such as truth serum, polygraph analysis, and brain scans, nevertheless replicate the exact relations of compulsion, domination, and state violence that define modern policing throughout the democratized world. The Truth Machines implicates formal legal and quasi-legal actors and institutions in the continued exercise of state violence. In so doing, it offers cutting-edge interdisciplinary insight that registers in the scholarly domains of political science, law and society, and post-colonial studies. Professor Peretti's Partisan Supremacy is a masterly intervention into how modern American conservative actors have employed US courts in the service of regime maintenance. Weaving together scholarly insights drawn from the fields of American political development, judicial behavior, and social movements, Partisan Supremacy conclusively establishes that American conservatives have successfully deferred to courts the work of entrenching their electoral power, even as popular, generational, and demographic trends would seem to augur otherwise. Treating American courts and judges as essential cogs in conservative regime maintenance, Partisan Supremacy is a compelling work that enriches and challenges conventional scholarly accounts of courts and judging. So on behalf of the committee again, and on behalf of the section, I want to extend my most sincere congratulations to both Professor Locanita and Professor Peretti for their outstanding accomplishments.
Most excellent. Go out and buy those books. Thank you so much, Jeff, for your work chairing the committee and sorting through those many nominations and people on the committee as well. And congratulations to Terry and Jenny for their fantastic work. Now let me go back and check. Is there someone here from the Best Journal Article Award Committee? Either Tracy or one of the other members. I know that Kathleen Sullivan was not able to make it today. She was the chair of the committee, but is anybody else here? Okay, so I don't think that Sarah and Whitney are here either, but I will just say that I know from reading the citation earlier that these were both two very good pieces, two very different kinds of pieces, representative of some of the different kinds of work that people do in our section. Sarah Stasek, Princeton, for privatizing employment law, the extension of mandatory arbitration in the workplace, and a co-winner, Whitney Taylor at San Francisco State University, for On the Social Construction of Legal Grievances, Evidence from Colombia and South Africa. So we congratulate them and thank the members of the committee for their work. We congratulate those folks in absence and the committee members in absence for doing that grand work. The last award that we're going to talk about today is we'll have the panel next APSA, as I mentioned, not this APSA, but the 2021 awardee of the Lifetime Achievement Award is Leslie Goldstein of the University of Delaware. And Leslie is an amazing person because she has done a wide array of different work. You know, she's done important work in constitutional interpretation and on using the text as a basis for constitutional interpretation. She's done very important work in comparative politics and on the EU early on, before a lot of people were doing that. And she's done incredibly important work stemming from a long time ago, but now in several different editions on gender in constitutional interpretation of the law. And, you know, has one of the leading textbooks in that regard, co-authored earlier on with Judy Baer, and I think now with Courtney Daum as well. And interestingly, pardon me, did you want to say something there, Leslie?
No, I'm listening.
Okay, great. And
I was reaching up for something in my kitchen, sorry.
No worries, no worries. And one of the great things about this is Courtney was originally, you know, a student at the University of Delaware, now is a full professor at Colorado State. So not only, and Courtney will speak in a few minutes if she's here and about that. And I want to also say that
I'm in a meeting, Phil.
I also want to say that, you know, Leslie is a longtime mentor of mine, informal mentor as well. And we met, you know, in a kind of chance way. I was participating, or some might say shooting my mouth off at one of the law and courts meetings about this or that thing. And Leslie and another esteemed member of our section took it upon themselves to get to know me based upon what I was saying then. And then, you know, we read each other's work and have been conversant, you know, since that time on a number of different planes. But I think that Courtney is going to speak even more about the role of that Leslie played, and she's a co-author too, you know, so she's going to speak more about the role that Leslie played in her career. Courtney, do you want to take the floor?
Sure. Thanks, Susan. I'll be really brief because I know we're going over time, but I had just wanted to recognize that Leslie is a formidable and fierce scholar, but also in honor for Lifetime Achievement Award, to also just recognize her role as a vanguard for women in the field of political science and law and courts discipline and feminist jurisprudence. I'm getting emotional. But for, you know, me personally, when I arrived at the University of Delaware as an 18-year-old undergraduate, I never could have imagined that all the things that I was passionate about in the world, from feminism and women's rights and LGBTQ rights and social justice and law and courts, would come together in a job, in a career. And it was Leslie, who was the person I looked to, who modeled that for me. And so I want to say to Leslie, you know, everybody knows she's paved the way for a lot of us. But for me personally, she really was there on that path with me from my undergraduate career through to today. And I really don't think I would be here today if I had not observed her in Smith Hall as an undergraduate all those years ago. And so I want to say thank you, Leslie, for your mentorship and your leadership and your friendship all these years. I really appreciate it. And for me, that is really the symbol of a life well spent. So thank you.
So congratulations to Leslie, and that's a great model of the very best scholars in our section, that they are both excellent scholars, but also, you know, they think of other people in the section and bring us all along. So thank you so much, Leslie, for doing that these many years. Go ahead, you can speak if you'd like, sure.
Well, I do want to say thank you for your kind remarks, both of you. Susan Burgess, I remember that meeting. It was a discussion about our discipline. It was in a Wednesday session about sort of directions for public law. And you were this young person kind of sitting in the back, and you made a couple of really cogent points. And so I got interested. I thought, you know, this is someone who's going to be helpful to our discipline now that you're president of the association. So I'm a good talent scout, I guess. I saw that you had this administrative insight. So it's insight well spent. And Courtney, I'm glad you didn't model all the things you saw me in Smith Hall, because if I remember right, most of the time I was looking for my lost keys to my office door. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. And thank you to everyone who participated in these committees, who has been here during the meeting to honor this work. You know, that can't happen except for, we all know, you know, even though we recognize individuals, good work happens in communities of people. So we need to have strong communities in order to produce this kind of vibrant work and to continue to, you know, mentor people who are coming along for us people who are older after us. So thank you to everyone for doing this work in the section, for honoring the work, and for being part of the meeting today. We did run a few minutes over, but not too bad. I have to say, we did pretty well, 10 minutes over. I don't, technically our reception is supposed to start at 7 Eastern, but I'll just leave the link open. And if people want to hang out and say something to each other or whatever, you can do that. And I'll certainly be here, at 7 Eastern, if people want to join in at that time. But thank you all so much, and continued, I hope, good health to all of you. If you need to cut out to have dinner or, take care of the kids or whatever else you do, I don't know what, chew some gummies or something tonight. I don't know, whatever you're planning to do tonight. But if you're sticking around, that's great too. So thank you very much.
So Susan, is the reception going to be on the APSA platform or on the Zoom?
No, this same link, this
Okay.
exact link. That's why I'm just going to
Okay.
leave it open. And if
Got it.
people want to take off and take a break for a while, that's totally fine. But if people want to hang out for a little while, I'm happy to facilitate that as well. Just depends on what people want to do. I don't know how the reception's going to work on the platform, but whatever.
Hey, Susan, I do have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Do you want us to post the recording of this meeting on the YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Here, I'll stop the recording now so it doesn't get unwieldy. I mean, one thing that happened was, let's see, do you want to start? Yes, you're assuming, okay.